This Western American society is only interested in exhausting us completely of our resources. Industrialization and capitalistic ideas have never seen us as fully human. We're all fuel to the machine. If we don't unplug and disconnect from this machine and protect our community from being used, we'll all burn out. I'm Jamal Kalpin, and welcome to the Beneficial Black Man channel, where we focus on helping Black men to overcome mediocrity and become beneficial for their community by discussing faith, creativity, personal development, and mental and emotional health management. Today, I wanted to talk about, I'm doing a reaction to a podcast episode video that was created by Jason Wilson, Mr. Jason Wilson, who is an author and the owner of Cave Adullam, which is it's like mixed martial arts community center program for young boys in, I want to say, Detroit. I'm not 100% sure, but anyways, I'll have to put that. I'll link his information and all that stuff there. But I just wanted to do a reaction to this podcast episode that he has entitled "Men Are Tired," and I already watched some of it. And I think it's a great conversation. And I think it's really relevant to us as Black men because it's true. I think a lot of us are tired in various different forms. And so as we watch this, I'm going to make some comments and add my 2 cents to the conversation. But in general, like I stated at the start of this video, this system, this society that we're in the United States and Western civilization that's impacted by capitalism and industrialization and colonialism isn't interested in Black folk. It's not. Outside of using us and abusing us and manipulating us for their gain, for the systems, for this machine, for this matrix gain, it doesn't care about us and it just wants to use us up. And if we don't do something about it, if we don't take a step back, realize that we are part of this machine and that we sometimes contribute to it. If we don't make those changes, if we as men don't step in to be like, yo, this isn't good, we got to make changes, we will continue to be tired. Because it's not just men, it's women too. And sadly, even children. Like, I don't know if you've ever talked to a kid who's in school currently or anything like that. It's sad that at the end of a school day or at the end of a week, they're exhausted. And you would think, well, you're just going to school, you're just getting an education. But there's so much going on in the system impacting them. It may be different, but just as it's impacting adults, men and women, they're being drained. They're being taught how to fit in a system that drains them. And that's BS. That's no good. And so we're going to watch this video. I'm going to give a little bit of commentary. And again, Black man, I want to encourage you. We got to do the work to become beneficial. We got to do the work to become beneficial. So again, this is Men Are Tired. It's a conversation with Mr. Jason Wilson and Ronald Lee Jr. And we're going to sit here, listen to some of the discussion, and I'm going to toss in some of my 2 cents.
Shalom. I'm here with my brother, longtime friend. I call him a brother, Ronald Lee Jr. And this is very impromptu.
Right.
I guess after just talking this morning, we talk almost every morning,
Right.
But this morning specifically, how many like men are just tired,
Yeah.
and how that one word is really broad in definition when we say it.
Right. Right.
It's typically not meaning that we're physically tired. It means we're mentally and emotionally tired with life. And
Exactly.
talking this morning, I was sharing with you how I feel like I'm feeling like depressed, man,
Right.
you know what I mean? And had a lot of disappointments, especially like recently with the documentary, hoping it would do more than what it did.
Right.
You get your hopes up, you wanted the documentary for what we do here to
Right.
help us get the money to really focus on the cave and help boys. That's just one thing,
Right.
you know what I mean?
Right.
And so, but when I called my friend to hear that he had cried, he broke down crying. This, what I'm talking about. He's
Yeah.
strong.
Yeah.
He's a
Very
strong
strong.
brother. Broke down crying, and his wife heard him, and he's just like, I'm tired. And as men, it's like the world hears us,
Mm-hmm.
but they don't understand us.
No.
And then as I was walking out the gym this morning, a friend of mine who works out, older gentleman, actually he's a wrestler from Poland, and he says, he didn't even hear our conversation. He just randomly said, "Don't nobody want to hear us complaining.
True.
They don't care about what we're thinking about." And I believe that was the Most High just saying, "Hey, just share this because many of the people watching right now, men who are watching, they feel they're alone."
Definitely.
You know what I'm saying?
We live in this performance-based society, right? Especially for men, right? Like where we have to perform. Everything that we're doing is about performing, right? We have to be the providers. We have to do all these things. And like you said, it just, without an outlet, it gets tiresome, right? We don't have, I look at, like, once again, it's not a male woman thing, but, I look at women and they take vacations and they look like they, living their best life, right? I don't ever see men do that.
Real quick before he continues on, because I think that's a great point. I think they already made a lot of great points up until this point. I guess Ronald Lee, Mr. Lee, Mr. Lee Jr. mentions the importance of having an outlet, and I agree. That's 100% one of the reasons why I encourage us as men to have an emotional release valve. We need that. We need something that can help us to relieve stress in a positive and a constructive way. And that helps us to manage our mental and emotional health so that we can navigate the system. And I think the other thing that I find interesting so far in this conversation is, I think a lot of times people don't understand the perspective of a man when they may say, "Oh, I'm tired," or whatever. I think the hard part is that we really struggle with being able to fully communicate it. And I want to say it's like mixed weight on both us as men, but also our society that we live in. Very often we're not given the tools to learn how to communicate effectively. And so we may know that, hey, I'm tired or I feel tired, but to pinpoint and to give great detail to why that is or what exactly we're feeling tired about, that's something that I think we struggle with. I know I've struggled with that. Like there are moments where I'm like, I feel exhausted, but I haven't done anything like physical or anything like that. But you can be emotionally exhausted, mentally exhausted, spiritually exhausted. But that takes time and effort to learn how to actually communicate that so that people can understand. Let's continue.
Right, where we went on a boys trip, right?
You see our white brothers.
Okay.
My boys are different ethnicities.
Right.
My white boys,
right?
They get it in, dude.
Okay.
They ATVing. I think you're talking about us specifically. I don't see, my brothers, white brothers.
Okay.
They hunt. I mean, they get it. No, bro, they get it in.
Okay.
And if I'm wrong, let me know, brothers, because again, it's a culture thing.
Yeah.
But heck, my man Bert Soren, all of them guys, man, they hunt, they get it in. Ryan Mitchell, them cats get it in.
Okay. Yeah, because that's the thing. Is like for me, I know I see a lot of.
I would say I would agree with him. Like, I think we're trying to get better at it, especially within our community, for both men and women. But I think that goes back to, again, the society and this machine. Like, only thing that we look for is maybe the weekend and a 2-week vacation. But the idea of regularly getting rest, regularly taking vacations and stuff like that, no, like you have to save it all up until you retire. And then with the remaining years of your life, that's what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to wait until the very end. That's when you rest. That's when you relax. And of course, there's certain things put in place that in the society that it makes it difficult to even have a vacation or even think about having a vacation. And it's a struggle, but we got to acknowledge that there is stuff going on, but we also got to make an effort to make sure that we are okay and that we take care of ourselves.
People, once again, people look like me, right? We don't have an outlet because it's like, life is life. It's not going to change now. And I think that we're able to burden and carry so much just by the way the Most High made us, right? However, there's a time to when, though, you get tired because sometimes, once again, he talks about placing his burdens on us and his yoke is light, right? I think sometimes those burdens that are placed on us are not the burdens that he's placing on us.
That's why I often say, I always say, the scripture says, the Most High will not put on us more than we can bear.
Exactly.
But I always add to that, but we can.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's happening. I believe culturally,
Yeah.
we've allowed this society to define us as men.
Exactly.
And that's two things, providing and protecting. Everything else, it's like we've been banned from being human. You know what I mean? Like, no.
That's real.
I don't know if we'll get out. You know, like if I talk to my wife, I catch myself repeating the same thing. Like, wait a minute, this is insane. It's like Groundhog Day, the movie. You wake up to the same thing.
Right.
It's a lifestyle change.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's what we as men, I think it's like you really have to be shrewd and mentally strong to say, I ain't that guy no more.
Exactly.
You can't.
I think that's good. I think that's really good. And this is one of the reasons why I appreciate Mr. Jason Wilson and the content that he creates, especially with his books that he's released, like Battle Cry is one of them. There has to be a whole cultural mental shift so that we can get to a place where we really do look at ourselves as whole, healthy human beings. Because if we don't, we'll continue to operate with the belief that we are like a machine or that we're a brute beast, a beast of burden, and we can just keep working. But then internally know that something is wrong. Everything is messed up. This doesn't feel okay. This doesn't feel good. And one other thing that he said that I thought was good, I think both of them said it, but the idea of like this saying, which I kind of disagree with, but the idea of like, you know, God won't put on you more than you can bear. I think God definitely puts stuff on you that requires you to go to him. So he will definitely put things on you that is like overwhelming. Because I mean, I think about Jesus, like Jesus was asking for help. Like he wanted help. He didn't really want to go through, you know, being crucified and then take on the sin of humanity. He wanted out, but the Most High gave him grace so that he can continue to go through it. So he gives us a lot, but it like stuff that is super heavy for us to carry that will stretch our muscles, but it requires us to humble ourselves and to depend on him so that we can get it done. But, you know, but that idea of we do, or we can pick up burdens, pick up weights, things that we choose to do, whether consciously or unconsciously, that's not helping us. That doesn't help us in our journey. That doesn't help us to be beneficial. That doesn't help us to be healthy. And we have to be very, he used the word shrewd. We have to be very shrewd and careful and pay attention to what's going on. Like, are we picking up stuff? Are we picking up identities, aspects of our identity? Are we picking up beliefs? Are we picking up thoughts, things that impact and affect the way that we live and the way that we are being, that then changes everything, that then becomes a burden and that hurts us? Like, we have to be really, really, really careful.
And depend on me for everything no more,
Right.
because I don't have nothing for myself.
Exactly.
And that's what it is. I was telling our friend, and we were just talking about, like, bro, he does a lot for people just to make them happy. Then he's angry because his whole day he realized was working for them.
Yeah. So not having healthy boundaries. Like, that's the book I was just reading by Dr. Henry Cloud. Phenomenal book. And it opened up. I thought I had healthy boundaries because I can say no to stuff, but there's certain things and certain people I don't say no to. So because I don't take on those boundaries, because I want to be the good father, I want to be the good husband, I want to be these things, and then wondering why I'm bitter, wondering why I'm resentful, wondering why I'm upset, is because I haven't put a boundary in place, right? I haven't. Okay, even if you cross the boundary, there's no consequence. So now, listen, I've been practicing it the past couple of weeks. I've been putting those boundaries up. I'm like, nope, I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. Yeah, they get upset. Oh, well, that's their feeling that they got to deal with. I said, I'm responsible to them, but I'm not responsible for them. I'm not responsible for how you feel about this, right? Like you said, I have to protect my peace. And I'm not being a bad guy by just saying no.
Absolutely.
Right?
Bro.
I'm not.
And that's good. Like, boundaries are a very difficult thing to, one, learn how to set up. Because I don't think, I mean, honestly, I feel like this idea of boundaries, we've been wrestling with it as a people, as a community, since we were enslaved, since our ancestors were enslaved and we were brought here. Like, your boundaries were ripped away. And that's physically, emotionally, mentally, even spiritually, like being forced and indoctrinated with a false version of Christianity. So to relearn and unprogram the fact that like I don't have my own space, I don't have my own agency and all that, you have to unlearn all of that we've been programmed for centuries at this point, and then start to put up boundaries, put up walls to guard ourselves, and not necessarily to block people out all the time, but to make sure that we are okay so that we can serve others. Like part of being a beneficial man is living for glory and living for good and for joy. But for you to ultimately do that, you have to put things in place so that you can most effectively do that. And the book that he mentioned, Boundaries by I think Dr. Henry Cloud, is a really, really good book. And I think it can be challenging, especially if you wrestle with like people pleasing, because you don't want to disappoint people. You know, if you wrestle with any level of people pleasing or anything like that, or even if you have to say no to people that you love, whether it's your spouse, your family, or your close friends, sometimes just for your own health and your own well-being, sometimes you have to say no. And it can be really, really, really hard because you don't want to see your spouse sad. You don't want to see your family sad or disappointed or anything like that. But if you're honest with yourself, you know, if you keep going, if you keep people pleasing, you will burn out, and it can explode. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to explode out of frustration or even resentment that builds up because you constantly keep saying yes. You have to put those boundaries in place for your benefit, but also for the good of those around you. You know, if you're tired, you need to get rest. You need to be replenished, refreshed somehow. And if you don't do that, you're going to be in a bad spot.
Being a bad guy by putting a boundary up, right? I mean, boundaries are put up to protect, but we protect everybody but us. So then we wonder why we're tired, why we're exhausted, you know what I'm saying? Why we irritated, why we frustrated, you know what I'm saying? All these other things that we don't necessarily have to be, but it's because, once again, we're placing on other things. Like you said, the Most High Yah, he's not placing it on us. We place it on ourselves.
You know, what's deep, man, a friend of mine, billionaire, very successful person. We were talking, and he had said that he needed a break. He did something really great, and if I share, you would know who he is. So I'm gonna leave him without telling you who he is. Right. But he needed a break. But his team was like, "No, you got to get back at it. You got to do this. This you got to strike it while it's hot."
Right.
He says, "If I do, I'm gonna hurt myself."
I think that's sad. It's a sad example and a sad story, but that's where this capitalistic and industrial society has us. It really does. It really has turned us into robots. It's really turned us, or tried to turn us into robots, tried to turn us into beasts of burden to constantly keep going. And especially with social media now, whether it's YouTube or Instagram or any of that stuff, like you constantly have to chase likes, chase attention, because right now people's attention is currency. That is what people are after. That's what these big corporations are after. How can they get your attention? If you're sitting here watching this stream or watching this video, like YouTube wants you here so that it can get, you know, that turns into revenue. You know, like I don't have any ads on my channel or whatever, but like for every platform, for every business at this point in time, with streams, with ads, with articles, with whatever, they want you to be, they want your attention. They want your time. They want your energy. And of course, they want your resources. And so like, you have to keep doing the next thing. And if you're running a business, you have to compete with the other person that's fighting for that person's attention. And it's sad and it's sick that they don't really, again, care about us. At the end of the day, the bottom line is we want our money. The people at the top, the system that is this matrix that's using all of us as fuel for the system, like it doesn't care. It's just like, if you go away, if you stop watching this video, if you get off of this platform, I will find somebody else to do it. And that makes us scared as individuals, you know, whether it's I got to make sure I go to work even if I feel sick because I don't want to lose this job. I don't want to lose this opportunity because I have to keep chasing after money to survive. And it's not good. It's not meant to be that way. We aren't robots. We aren't animals in the sense of beasts of burden. I don't believe we're animals in general. I think humans are a very unique, separate thing. And I think this can be a whole rabbit trail or whatever. But I think science teaches us that in a negative way, to not help us to realize our humanity or even the level of divinity that we share with the Most High. Like, we're created in His image. Animals and insects and stuff are not created in the image of God, but we are. You know, we're placed a little bit lower than the angels, as the scriptures say. But if this system wants to take that away and put us on the same level as oxen or any other animal, with that belief, with that concept, then they can force us to do whatever, because like, it doesn't matter. Like, there's nothing special about you. You're just an animal, and I'll replace you. And that will wear you out. That will wear you out. You know.
That's when they got serious.
Yeah.
And I was like, because sometimes I said, what does it take for people to understand? Do I say, okay, wait a minute, you don't understand what I mean by this? Grab a gun and say, this is what I mean. Mm-hmm. This is how close I am.
Right.
Is this what we have to do?
Mm-hmm.
He was like, that's real.
Yeah.
Because it's like, we're humans, dude. Yeah. And it's like, we're at a tipping point. I think we're spilling over now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I see it. And, you know, I made a decision even this week, talking about boundaries. So, you know, I have to work out for what I do and train. I need to be in bed I need to be winding down at 9:30 in bed by 10.
Mm-hmm.
This decision, I had to be out to 11, then get home to by 11:15, 11:20, then get to bed to really getting to sleep around 1.
Right.
Then I missed my 5 a.m. training. Then I had to work another 10 hours that day, get home. You see how it pushes you back.
Right.
But most people don't understand, like, well, that was just one day. How did you let that destroy? But when you talk to successful, like, business people, they don't compromise that time. It's scheduled around. That was my fault. It was no one else's fault. But I got tired of feeling like the bad guy.
That's it.
But you're not a bad guy, like you're saying, just because I have a boundary or a principle that I need to abide in if I'm going to make it here. And that's what I compromise. And so I think that's, when I speak for me, makes me the most angry, is that it's me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, as me.
I understand that. I'm gonna let them keep going, but I definitely feel that way. Like, especially if you're trying to take onus and responsibility and accountability in your own life as a man. Like, if something doesn't go the way that you planned it to, I think the first knee-jerk reaction is to blame everything else around you, whether it's your person, whether it's traffic or whatever. But if you take the step back and realize that, no, I could have got up earlier, or no, I should have stopped watching that video, or no, I should, whatever, like, it moves differently. And so you may be angry with yourself, but we have to have some grace to know that, like, okay, I can learn from this. I need to have grace. I am human. I make mistakes. I get tired, whatever. But I think it's important to keep in mind that, again, we live in a system that wants us to be burnt out. It wants to exhaust us completely. And it makes it difficult that even the idea of just having a moment to rest. Recently, my wife and I spent some time out of the country. We were able to hang out, spend some vacation time in Mexico. And where we were, you could tell things were a lot more chill, even how the businesses run. And this happens so many other places around the world that it seems so strange to us as Americans, to those who are in, you know, Western civilization or whatever, that people actually take time to rest, to take breaks, to spend time with their family or with their kids or whatever. But here it's just constantly go, 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 go. No time for rest. Even the idea of like hustle now, grind. You can sleep when you're dead. Like, that is so anti-human. So anti-human, but we are sold that all the time. And the system puts it in place that, like, you have to live like that, or it convinces you that you have to live like that to find success. But I believe that's not true. And I believe that the Most High doesn't want us to live like that. And we can definitely find success. We can definitely be beneficial without having to be burnt out all the time.
And we know that we ain't doing nothing that we don't really want to do. Right. If we adamant, we ain't doing it.
Yeah.
We end up giving in because we tired of fighting against doing things that we don't want.
Exactly.
Like the Bible says, Satan wears out
right.
the saints of the Most High.
Right.
I remember one pastor said, Satan ain't trying to knock you out in the first round. He's trying to knock you out in the 9th round.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what we have to understand. And, you know, so.
Sorry, I know I'm stopping a lot, but there are a lot of good nuggets here. Yeah, there's the scripture. I think it's in 1 Peter. I have to look it up later. But this idea that Satan wears out the saints is true. And even though you may not be a believer, Satan is against humanity in general. He's against the Imago Dei, the image bearers of God. Like he's against that, and he's going to do whatever he can to rub you out, to make you weaker, to get rid of your strength, even if it takes a long time. So even in the example that Mr. Wilson gives about like a boxing match, like, no, he's not going to try to knock you out in the first round, but you get later down the line, he's worn you out, made you tired, kind of like the rope-a-dope with Muhammad Ali and George Foreman. Like this rope-a-dope technique to, like, now you can't even keep your gloves up because you're so tired. You can't even throw a good punch. You can't even protect yourself. You can't even guard yourself. Then that's when he comes to attack you. And it sucks because it happens all the time. Like, we get drained and distracted and pulled away from our purpose, from the things that really matter every day, constantly. Like if you have a cell phone and your notifications are on, all your apps and stuff like that, something's pulling at your attention. And all that attention, that's energy. All those thoughts, the things that you're looking at, the things that you're swiping by or whatever, it's pulling your attention. And then on top of that, you have the stresses of society, you know, whether it's bills, taxes, anything else, like debt, like all these things. And it's put in place to wear you out so that it's easier to manipulate you, easier to lead you down a path that may not be beneficial. Like I talked about in another video about vices and how vices are not a good way to deal with stress. But if you are stressed out all the time and your stamina is gone, it's real easy to turn to drinking, to smoking, to pornography, to any of that stuff. And that's not helping you to be beneficial. But that's plan of the enemy. That's what Satan wants to do. He wants to break us down so much so that we can't even defend ourselves, that we can't even do what's best for us. You know, like it's cunning and it's subtle. You know, Satan was described as the most subtle creature in the garden in Genesis. Ain't nothing changed. But we have to look out for that. And this is another reason why we need to have an emotional release valve. It's another reason why we have to take care of our mental and emotional well-being so that we can be our best selves, so that we can be beneficial, so we can live for glory and live for good and even pursue joy that the Most High has put in us to accomplish and to see. But if we're not taking time to self-reflect, if we're not taking time to be aware of what's going on, if we are not realizing the game that's being played, if we're not seeing the system that's around us, we're living through this thing blindly, and it's not good.
You know, one of the keys to us breaking out of that is talking.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I felt that just for us to grab this time, snatch it, record it, and just share it for brothers, because they're tired, man. And like I want to just get off social media, like period, be done with it, you know. But then I feel just this feeling of like, well, who's crying out in the wilderness? What's going to fill the void of my voice?
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. No, that's so. And this is when you said something else that I'm gonna respond to, or just kind of touch on. When you talked about, you know, tired of feeling like, or tired of being a bad guy, right? And a lot of the things that we take on and that we do is based on, okay, I don't want to disappoint somebody, or I don't want to, you know, we don't want that guilt or that shame. You know, it goes back to feeling. We don't want to feel a certain way. So I'd rather do it. Like, so sometimes I do stuff just because, okay, I don't want to hear my wife's mouth, right? But that's not a good reason not to do something.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So now I'm taking on this adage that, okay, I'm doing this so I don't hear her mouth, but I'm still going to be ended up resenting or being bitter or irritated because, like you said, it may have knocked me off my schedule. You know what I'm saying? Because like you said, that one little thing, that was a domino effect. Where it's like, okay, I just set me back an hour and I would set everything back up to my schedule. And now it's like I'm off. And once again, as men, we compartmentalize. So it's like that one thing may seem small to someone else, but like you said, to you, no, that was huge. right? And now you, like I said, now you upset at yourself because I should have said no, or I should have shut it down.
Urgency, bro.
Right.
It was no urgency.
Right.
So
right. It wasn't. Listen. So
while they take a little laugh break, I think that's real true. That's very true. Like, you definitely don't want to do things out of resentment. And I think part of, again, being a man and being a beneficial man, we are supposed to serve. But there's a difference between service with a smile and service with resentment, or service out of grief, or service out of burden. There's a difference between that. And particularly those who love you and those who are closest to you, like your spouse will know. Like my wife knows if there are certain things that I'm doing and she's like, you don't really want to do this. She'll know. And I mean, maybe I'm not really good. I don't have a good poker face or whatever, but she knows. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to. Of course, there's certain times that you just have to do stuff, whatever. That's part of the sacrifice. That's part of the commitment. That's part of loving others and being, I would say, a good servant leader. But other things, no, don't show up if you can't fully be there. Don't do that just to people please. Don't do that. Like he said, given that example, like he doesn't want to hear his wife complain or whatever. Don't do that. Set up a boundary and figure out maybe an alternative or something so that her needs can still be met. And so can yours. It takes creativity. It takes effort. It takes ingenuity to be able to do that. But it's better than gritting your teeth and going through it, and then later having resentment towards your wife and things be bitter and not good, and y'all have communication issues. And that's what I was saying earlier. Like, that stuff will bubble over and blow up or seep out on other things. And like Mr. Wilson said earlier, like, we are, I think, especially after 2020, we are seeing how bad things are here. We're seeing how broken down, how worn out, how deceived we've really been for years. And it's definitely impacting our community because we've been feeling it since we got here, since our ancestors were brought here. But now people are starting to see more and feel more of what we've been feeling for a long time. And the way we have to deal with it is we have to acknowledge it, address it, and get away from it. We have to change. We have to shift some things around. And it really starts with us as men acknowledging that this ain't right. And we need to change it. We got to make an effort to get away from this kind of thing because it's not helping us. And another point that he made about creating this podcast episode in general, having somebody to talk to, like, having community is so important. And community doesn't always have to be tens and hundreds of people. It could just be 2 or 3 people that you try to talk to on a regular basis. That's so important. Like, as men, we need brothers to talk to. We need brothers who can understand where we're coming from and listen to us and even help us, help hold us accountable in our journey. If we don't have that, we are shortchanging ourselves. And we're also shortchanging everyone around us. We can't do that. We got to show up the best that we can. We have to take care of ourselves. And part of that is making sure that we are in community so that we can have, so that we can talk about stuff, so that we can get these burdens and stuff off our chest and out of our mind. It's important.
I was invited to an event this week, but it was a last minute invite. So somebody asked me, where are you going to go? And I for a second considered it, but once again, thought about my boundaries. They're like, well, no, I didn't know until the last minute, and I'm not in a position to alter, change my schedule to make accommodations. Mm-hmm. And if the person, offended that I didn't attend, you know what I'm saying? It's like, you didn't give me enough information. I didn't know in enough time to make accommodations.
Absolutely.
So that's not on me.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I feel relieved. I don't feel no kind of way like they may feel a certain way. Oh, I'm like, really? Oh, well.
It's deep, but you would be pissed off if you would agreed and went.
Exactly.
That's deep.
Exactly. So who you rather be pissed off, me or them? And they ain't really
gonna
pissed
be mad
off.
because at the end of the day, if you not showing ruins their event, they shouldn't have had the event. Right. You know what I mean? That's how I look at, like, dude, right. if I'm not there and it ain't working, you probably shouldn't have had that event. You feel me? Straight up.
That's real.
It's like, come on, man. Right. It's like, and everyone has a life.
Yeah.
Everyone can't be everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, your weekend is booked every weekend of the year.
Yeah.
because you got to go do something for somebody else. And, you know, yeah. And so even with my partner, when we would start this whole conversation, our friend, he's in isolation almost. You know, I have to hunt him down sometimes. Where you at, man? And I think because we don't talk enough, we not only feel that our wives, the women in our lives, even our children, when they become adults, they know what we're saying to them, but they don't understand. It makes it worse when we feel that no other brothers will understand.
Right.
But as soon as you talk to another man, you see like, whoa, it's not just me. And that's what my friend's call did for me. The Most High was letting me know. And you may feel like it's just you.
Right.
Your son and daughter may feel like it's just you. Your wife may feel like it's just you. Your mom may feel like it's just you. But it's not just you.
That's real.
And, you know, it's typically, you know, a lot of men out here, you may feel, you know, that they feel like they're weak.
Right.
When it happens. Man, I know some strong men, like physically and mentally strong, breaking down right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like,
I think that's important too, especially for us as Black men. The idea of being weak or emotional or vulnerable has been ingrained in us so much as a negative that we avoid it. So we would rather be silent or be stoic or whatever to save face and continue to be a man. But no, we're breaking down on the inside. We're falling apart. We're being worn out. And that's not healthy. Like the idea of being emotional or being vulnerable, having feelings, being passionate about things, it's not a man or a woman thing. It's a human thing. But we've been taught the opposite for so long. And it doesn't help us. It's not good. So we got to get rid of that idea. We got to get rid of that idea because it's killing us.
But they don't know that other strong men are breaking down.
Right.
And the brothers who think they're weak, who aren't weak, they think, well, I'm the only one like this. There's millions of men feeling like them right now. So, you know, it's not a guess, but I believe, you know, Proverbs 27:17. We should know that by heart because every men's conference is named iron sharpens iron. So as one man sharpens another.
Right.
You know, that word man is literally male.
Right.
It's not human being. So it's not your wife sharpening you. It's not your sister, your female cousins, your mama. It's another man sharpening you. And I believe that's the biggest issue, like consistent sharpening because it's a good example, bro. I had to cut one of the weeds back from the parking lot gate, but my knife was dull. I'm like, whoa, I haven't sharpened this in a while.
Right.
This is the thing, though. When you use any edged weapon, like you consistently use it, you need to sharpen it consistently.
Right.
Because it's going to get dull fast and then it's harder to sharpen.
Right.
To bring that edge back. We use our swords all day, every day.
Right.
In society, it's in life, emotionally, introspectively, whatever. But we're not sharpening them.
That's real.
Consistently.
That's real.
So if they're not being sharpened consistently, we dull, like Solomon says, you know, a dull axe takes more effort to cut. And that's what we're beating, like trying to cut this with a blunt edge.
Yeah.
And eventually we get frustrated. Now we breaking the axe, you know,
Exactly.
like I'm tired. And then, you know, it's suicide. You know, you that's why men give up, because it's like, I mean, think about this, bro. My boy Jay Barnett said he had survivor's guilt after a failed attempt, but he wanted to kill himself, but he survived.
Wow.
All right. Actually, I think he actually attempted suicide and survived. He said he had survivor's guilt. That's deep.
Yeah.
As a man, for you to get to that place, it's like hopelessness.
Yeah.
And that's where many of us are. And the reason it's hopeless, you're hopeless, because people hear you. They could write a book on your life,
right?
But they don't really know you.
That's true.
And in all fairness to them or anyone, you can't know really what we're going through unless you walk in our shoes. You know what I mean? Or walking truly with us. And unfortunately, as men, we don't have camaraderie like that. And then
I think that's good. I'm gonna let him keep talking. I just want to make another quick point about the idea of sharpening ourselves. I agree. It's 100% true. And I think there are three examples that come to mind for me of how you can sharpen yourself. Is one, you have to rest. Like sleep is so important. Sleep is so important. And I think because we live in this hustle and grind kind of society, we don't think sleep is important or rest is important. No, you got to get some sleep. The next thing is you have to have an emotional release valve that you can creatively express yourself, whether it's anger, sadness, or whatever. You have to create something to get those emotions out, to get those thoughts out. You need to do that. And the third thing is we got to make sure we're in community, whether it's, joining Facebook groups, joining a Discord, or actually meeting up with people. We got to have community with other men and other brothers, because I think it's true. A lot of what he's saying is, as men, it's important that we relate to other men. I don't know why that is set up in such a biological way, the way that God designed men and women. We need each other, yes, but we also need the same of ourselves, because there's something, I guess, in the DNA and the design or whatever. But when a man talks to a man, something happens there. And when women talk to women, something happens there. And it's different from when men and women talk to each other. But we need all of it. You need to be able to talk to brothers. Women need to be able to talk to sisters. And we need to be able to talk with one another. Like, it all works together. But very, very often, like he's saying, we don't have camaraderie. We don't have that community. We don't make an effort to do that, because we've been sold on this idea of being a lone wolf or being an alpha, and you kind of like above everybody else and you're handling everything by yourself. But it's not true. Again, we're not. I did a video about, do you really want to be an alpha man? No, like that concept and in the way that it shows up in the animal kingdom isn't for us, because we're not animals. We're human beings. And we have to keep that in mind. We have to unlearn this bad thinking, these bad beliefs, because they are killing us. They're wearing us down. They're tearing us apart. But if we keep believing this stuff, if we keep opting into it, we're never going to get any better. It's just not going to happen. But I'm grateful for conversations like this. I'm grateful for podcasts like this, information like this, and the stuff that I'm able to share on my channel. Like, we need this stuff. As men, we have to get better so that our community can get better. It's important. Like, we have to make that effort. We have to do that work.
And even to the men who are able to get away and hang out, majority of that stuff is a facade. Everyone's not really. There's no in-depth conversation like, man, I'm losing my marriage, or I'm not feeling well. I feel weak as a man. That stuff rarely happens. And so we end up being here, end up being alone. The next thing you know, it's just like, I'm tired of this. I'm tired, like I say, I'm not tired of living. I'm tired of not living. So you're just making it through life. And then a lot of men ask, what is in this life for me?
Right.
Like straight, like,
right.
What's in it for me?
Yeah.
Majority of men who are providers and protectors and good men, they don't ask people to do nothing for them. Their wives, I'm serious. It's like, I'm serious. They don't ask.
That's real. That's as long as you know me. How many times have I asked for anything?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. So it's like, even here, you have to save me from myself. And you get to the place where it's like, what's in this life for me? I take care of this. I do this. I work. I pay. But what's in it for me?
Right.
Like, literally for you. And unfortunately, as men, it's like Father's Day coming up. One daughter, lady I asked, her father. I said, "What are you doing for him?" He was like, "He just want to be left alone." Like, what? Like Mother's Day, mothers don't say leave me alone.
Right.
But the fathers say he ain't going out to a restaurant. I want to just lay down. That's why restaurants are empty. If that isn't a warning sign for society.
Right.
Like, no, straight up, like, here's the day, I'm gonna take you out, get you whatever you want to eat. No, just leave me alone.
Let me be. Let me alone.
That right there tells you that men are tired.
Yeah.
But we look at it, he just want to be alone. He irritated. No. He's tired because that's something else he got to do. And that's for him.
Right.
But typically, it's like when you do stuff constantly for others, when your day come and you don't want to go nowhere, that's a problem, bro.
Yeah.
I think that's a lot. I think he said a lot there, and I agree. Which is, again, it's really, really sad. Like, I have this joke with my wife, and I talk about like the holidays that come up. So you have like Mother's Day, and then you have Father's Day. And I usually joke that there's a huge difference between like the card section when you go to a store to get cards for your mom for Mother's Day. Like, it'll be two aisles full of Mother's Day stuff. And then when Father's Day comes around, it's like a little section off to the side, because at the same time, you got Mother's Day and then you got grads and dads. and it's just like kind of off to the side. But I can understand what he's saying, and I can agree it can be very difficult because guys very often don't know what to ask for, or they don't ask for anything. Like I know for me, it's really, really, I'm really bad at celebrating birthdays, and my wife puts in huge effort to make sure that I feel appreciated and that, you know, I have the right gifts or right experiences and stuff. And I'm grateful for that. I'm very grateful for that. But I think I either something that I've learned over time, maybe seeing it in my own father or other men in my life, but like the idea of celebrating yourself is usually just nope. Like why? Like I don't understand. Like, yeah, like give me a time, like he's saying, like give me time alone. Like one of my birthdays, all I asked for was like all I did is I got on, sounds really stupid, but I mean I enjoyed it. But I asked for time to just go ride the train, like the metro where we were for 5 or 6 hours. And it was on the weekend, so there was nobody else on the train. And I just sat on the train quietly and I read. And I think it was just a way of kind of resting. And that sucks because we should be having that regularly in our lives so that we don't have to wait for special moments to rest. Like even, sorry, I feel kind of emotional about that. Like even with, like that's one of the reasons why the Most High tells us or made it a command that we rest. Because if we don't, we will wear ourselves out. We will burn ourselves out. We will take ourselves to the place of exhaustion. And we shouldn't have to search for ways to find rest. We shouldn't have to find little moments to refresh ourselves. It should be regularly implemented in our lives. But again, in this world, in this society, it makes it very, very difficult to take care of yourself in that way. And I think the enemy has done a great job in making us have these bad thoughts so that we can get burnt out, so that we can fall apart, so that we can't be our best selves. And it sucks. It really does suck. And it breaks my heart, you know, like him making, you know, Mr. Wilson pointing out that contrast between mothers celebrating their birthday. Yeah, they want to be celebrated. They want people around them. They want that attention, you know, that service. Generally speaking, that may not be the case for all moms, but generally speaking, like they want that fellowship and that time. And then on the other side, yeah, I think we've been conditioned as men to believe that that's how we should act. And then two, like, because we've been tired, I would say like a beneficial man who is working and serving and stuff like that, like you are tired and you just want to go away. Like you just want that rest. But we need to incorporate that. We need to have those emotional release valves. We need to have those breaks so that we can show up. So that if somebody does want to celebrate us, we can be present. And so that we don't want to have to feel like we have to escape the people that we love. Like that's bad. Like I get it. Like sometimes, yeah, you need a break, you know, especially if you're like an introvert or whatever, you need time of alone time or whatever. But no, like that shouldn't be the common plan, is like, you know, for my gift, I just want to be alone. That's not good. That's not good.
We don't look at it that way.
Yeah.
That's a major problem. Why men say, don't get me nothing, I'm cool. Let's just put that, y'all get something.
Right.
You don't feel appreciated.
Exactly. I know, and me and you've been talking more, right, as of late, right? So definitely finding, like you said, that iron sharpen iron is key, because I don't know if we would be here if we weren't talking. We might have just been sucking it up, keeping it moving, and who knows, you know what I'm saying, what happened. So to be able to have, you know, solid brothers that you can, like you said, have real vulnerable conversations, not the surface fluff stuff, but just on some like, how you doing? I'm not doing good. And then, you know, elaborating and, you know what I'm saying? Just Yeah, so I think that's key. Like you said, now answers. Nah, we try to figure it out ourselves.
Again, like, you know, someone that told me it's really revolutionary work what's happening now for men, just to even be able to talk.
Definitely. Oh yeah.
Like, I mean, you couldn't do this even in 1990.
No.
You couldn't do this in 2000.
Right.
You couldn't do this in 2015.
Right.
So we got less than a decade in with this.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just going to be a journey, man.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a journey, but just encourage brothers, you know, to talk, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to talk and get it out. Don't repress it, suppress it.
Yeah, because it's gonna come out. That's one thing I learned, is that there's no such thing as an unexpressed emotion. It's coming out in some way, shape, or fashion. And I'd rather me verbalize it and talk it than me explode and blowing up. You know what I'm saying?
There's no such thing as an unexpressed emotion. That's good.
No such thing.
Before they wrap up, because I think the episode is almost over, I agree about the having the space to talk. Because I think there's a difference. I'll say this because I know very often we've been hearing the voices of men for a very long time, whether it's in entertainment, media, whatever. We've been hearing the voices of men for a very long time, and I think the sad part is very often those voices that we hear aren't genuine and aren't authentic. So, like, for example, like when I think about like hip hop music or whatever, right? Hip hop, rap music, whatever you want to call it, in regards to the music and entertainment that's partially created, because I got a whole different opinion about the culture or whatever. But what we hear often sometimes isn't genuine, isn't authentic. It's a voice and a message that is shared first for profit, and two, to create a narrative. And it sucks that in our community, we support and uphold those things, even though they may not be true. Because on some level, yeah, you're saying it just enough so that people can resonate with it, but it's not really deep. It's not actually coming from the well springs of a person's heart. So, I mean, I agree. I think it's great that more men are trying to have conversations and express themselves. I think that we have to be careful. I think what we have to be careful of is making sure we're expressing ourselves in healthy and beneficial ways, and being careful of and mindful of what we are expressing, because not every conversation or thought needs to be made public. Some things should be reserved for a confidant, like a personal friend, you know, or a therapist or a minister or someone who can help you navigate certain things in your life. But just bleeding everywhere isn't wise. And I think, sadly, that's where we are, especially with, like, again, with 2020 and moving forward, like the rise of all of these different podcasts and media platforms or whatever, YouTube channels that supposedly are sharing the things that all men think. It's not true. Not all men think that way. And I think sometimes the stuff that's shared, men who say that, like, yeah, this is what we really think. It's not even necessarily, oh, I really think this. This is like, this is something that sounds good and I want it. Because I think about like the Fresh and Fits, or I think about Kevin Samuels, or all those guys who are in the manosphere, or, you know, I hear that some people don't want to be considered manosphere anymore or whatever. But if you get deep down to it, they're not really talking about the actual hurt that they have. Like, for example, I think of the guy from Fresh and Fit, Myron, I guess, the main one who talks and has a lot of the ideas or whatever. I think he's just hurt. I think he was rejected a lot as a kid. I think he has issues he probably needs to deal with his father, but he's never going to share that stuff. He's never going to be honest about it, because he'd rather cover up those wounds and go out and try to act big and bad, be a red pill, be an alpha or whatever, and flex on people, particularly women, to hide that he's in pain, to hide that he's broken. to hide that maybe he was made fun of because of his skin, because he was, he grew up around white people. But he ain't gonna talk about that. And so expressing that, like, oh, this is how I feel about women, this is how whatever. Nah, like that's this fake version of yourself that you're trying to share with the world, and you want other people to resonate with you. But the thing that's actually underneath the surface, that vulnerable aspect of yourself, that's what really needs to come out. That's what really needs to be expressed. That's what really needs to be expressed. Then that's what really needs to be shared and discussed. But very often men don't want to do that. They don't want to be vulnerable and say, like, I'm actually really sad. Like, I feel broken. I have low self-esteem. I feel like people don't really like me. I was hurt by a girl in college or in high school, or I was rejected in middle school and I never got over it. Or I didn't like the way that my dad treated me, or I didn't like the way that my dad wasn't there. Like, I think about Mr. Let Go and a lot of the stuff that I've heard and his focus on like single mothers and stuff like that. Like, but from what I understand, his mom was there, but his dad wasn't. And so he's got all this smoke and energy towards single moms, to his mom, but nothing for the man that you probably look like. And you run away from it because you don't really want to deal with that. You don't want to deal with that pain. You don't want to deal with that, do that work to actually heal that. And so, yeah, it's great that we have these platforms, that we can have these conversations. But what are we really talking about? Are we really getting to the nitty gritty? Are we really getting to the root of stuff? Or are we just talking about surface level things in an attempt to distract and deflect away from the hurt that we actually have? And we feel like, well, if I get a woman that's fit, feminine, submissive, and that fits into this program that I have in my mind, that this will make me feel better. That's not. You're trying to find a Band-Aid that isn't going to fix the fracture in your heart. It's not going to work. So we have to be like mindful of the conversations that we're having, the communication that we're engaging with. What are we really talking about? Are we really addressing the issue, or are we just playing games? I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
That's real, yeah. And I get it. Mm-hmm. I get it. We're saying, I ain't saying nothing no more. Mm-hmm. Oh, yes, you are.
Yeah.
Oh, you gonna say something.
Right.
Somebody gonna pull up next to you, cut you off on the road. You're gonna lose. You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
It's gonna come out. It's gonna come out. Or you just, caught myself a period of time just randomly cursing, dude. Mm-hmm. Just like,
oh yeah.
Where did that come from?
Right.
Because you holding back something that should have been expressed
exactly
in a better way, or in that moment. Mm-hmm. And now that moment is gone, and now you alone, and you're like, man,
Right.
That's true. There's no such thing as an unexpressed emotion. That's good. That's good. All right, brothers. We hope that this conversation, and hope you have conversations, but don't hold it in, man. And to the therapists out here, make sure you have a therapist.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I take my hat off to therapists.
Yeah.
I could tell them, bro, our therapist, psychotherapist, like he get away for like half a year. It seems like he's going on vacation. But to all the therapists, thank you for what you do. Psychiatrists, just anyone who's in the field of mental health, I couldn't imagine a workload right now. And so please take care of yourselves. And those of us who depend on psychotherapy and mental health experts, let's give them a break sometime.
Yeah.
Unless we're about to lose it, then you reach out. But if you can make it and you haven't really been practicing what they've been teaching you, try not to contact them for 2 weeks. If you're doing okay.
Yeah.
And practice what they've been trying to teach you.
That's it.
And give them a break so that they can be available for you when you need to come see them again.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Shalom.
Shalom.
Again, I thought it was a great conversation. And like I mentioned at the beginning of the show, like the society that we're living in wants to exhaust us completely of our resources. It wants us to be tired. So yeah, men are tired. Women are tired. People are tired because this industrialized system, this capitalistic system, this colonialistic system sees us, particularly as Black people, as just a tool and a resource to build their empire, to serve their causes. But we have to be mindful of that, and we have to get away from it. We have to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves, because if we don't, we're all going to get burnt out. We're all going to get burnt out. And what I want to challenge you to do is I'm going to put a link, or there will be something, an image somewhere. Go and watch my video about having an emotional release valve. Because Black man, it's important that you have one. You got to have one. You got to make time and space to release, to get your emotions and your thoughts out. So thank you guys for watching Beneficial Black Man. If you like the content, like it, share it, subscribe. I appreciate it. And Black man, continue to protect your mental. Find time for an emotional release valve. Go and check out that video. And I'll see you guys next time. Keep striving to be beneficial. Peace.